Oh, hi. I didn't see you over there. Welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. Guys, read anything interesting lately? So I got this old Time magazine, and want to read an article. I want to read a paragraph for you. The Martinez case is far from the only example of malfeasance in the Pokemon market. YouTube host Rattle Pokemon is devoted entirely to exposing scammers. He has a multi-part series on Martinez, and the mere fact that he has more than 2,400 videos about shady sellers is daunting. The most high-profile Pokemon scam involving our friend Logan Paul. I don't know if you guys saw this, but that's pretty freaking cool. I've known a lot of people in my life, to be honest with you. I've known a lot of people. I've only now officially known one person that has been mentioned in Time magazine, so shout out to Rattle Pokemon. Rattle, that's a pretty cool thing. When I first saw that, I was like, everyone always talks about Pokemon, and it's just the big. Do you ever feel like you're not making a difference? Some people feel like you are making a difference, and I think sometimes we lose sight of how massive and how large the Pokemon hobby really is, and I think every single person has an impact. Whether you have a guy like Rattle Pokemon who's getting mentioned in Time magazine, or the smallest of YouTube creators, or the biggest of YouTube creators, or the little guys like myself, or any of you guys at home who are super actively engaged in this hobby, whether it's through this channel, other channel, Discord groups, Reddit pages, Twitter pages, Instagram pages, whether you go the Collecticons, however you're interacting with this hobby, we are all just in a way cogs in this giant machine which is Pokemon. And it's pretty fascinating to know that even people might feel like that you maybe are on the smaller end, but you are having huge impacts in this hobby. And I don't think there's really many more people having larger impacts than Rattle Pokemon. And the fact that just that his name was mentioned in Time magazine, and going through this whole magazine, I mean, to be honest with you, it's Time magazine. It's not made for the super active, engaged person that watches hour-plus long chats about Pokemon. But, I mean, it's interesting, and I understand what this is. I understand, the clientele that it's for. But the fact that these things are probably selling like hotcakes, it just shows you, one, Pokemon is here to stay. I think sometimes people like to do the hypothetical. Well, what happens if Pokemon's gone in 5 years? And some people will make that little entertaining, oh, we'll do the what if. But the reality of the fact is Pokemon's not going anywhere. And depending on how you're interacting this hobby or what you're trying to pull out of this hobby, the future, in my opinion, is crazy. And one of the reasons I want to make this is because of that thought process right there, of how I just think the future is crazy, and I find myself just selling Pokemon all the time, and I don't know why I do that. I don't need to sell Pokemon to anybody, especially people watching this channel. Forget about it. You guys are in the niches of the niches of the niches. You can't get much deeper down the rabbit hole than you already are. So there's no selling to you, but it goes. And then that's why sometimes I'm like, I got to be careful with what I say. And the reason why I got to be careful with what I say is I got to be, a little reasonable. And if you guys watch my most recent video, which if you haven't, I'm really, really recommending you go back, and I'll link it down in the script. I'll pin the comment when this video is done. But it's Ken Golden talking about, the Feraligatr, Meganium, Typhlosion, the promos from the Japanese Neo Premium Collection file. Super, super mass-produced cards. In fact, when it comes to promos, one of the most mass-produced products of, that crazy 99 2000 hype. I mean, Japanese print quality, great print quality. Those things all grade super easy. There's a million of them. I personally know people sitting on hundreds of them. Yes, hundreds with an S. There's a million of these things exist. And it's pretty wild when you think of how many exist, but Ken Golden went on Shop at Home. It's kind of like a QVC, and just went on and he sold those things and shilled them like you've never seen anything shilled. Like, and after watching that, I'm like, I'd be careful what I say. Like, I don't want to end up being a Ken Golden who is just so ultra like bullish, but it also comes with the most ridiculous caveats of somebody who is just the definition of a salesman. And in my opinion, and this is all my opinion, everything I ever say on this channel from the start of this video to the end of this video, and in fact everything I ever say on this channel from the first day to the last day has been, will be, and continues to be and will be my opinion for always, but came off very snake oil salesman. So in that video, if you haven't had a chance to watch it, go back, and I pinned a comment and I timestamped a point. And Ken Golden said, and to quote him, in order for somebody to grade all those cards themselves in a PSA 10, it would the odds of doing that would be 1,000 to the ninth power. And that is the most ridiculous statement I think I've ever said. 1,000th, the odds of grading it is 1,000 to the ninth power. So if you guys like, this is elementary school math, but like powers, right? So when you go up by a power, you could go up by like a power of 10, power of 100, a power of 1,000, and every time you go up a power, if it's 10, you add 1 0. If it's 100, you add 2 zeros. And then if it's 1,000, because 1,000 has 3 zeros, every time you go up a power, you add 3 zeros. So 1,000 to the ninth power, so you take the 3 zeros and you times them by 9. So 3 times 9 is 27. To give you an understanding of what that number is, that is a 1 followed by 27 zeros. That number, I don't know if most people out there could really comprehend what 1,000 to the ninth power actually looks like. Like, you have like hundreds, thousands, millions, billions, trillions, quadrillions, quintillions, and that's pretty much what I think. There's sextillion. Yeah, nice, sextillion. There's sextillion after that, and then I don't even know what the next one is. I don't know what comes after sextillion, till eventually you get to a 1 with 27 zeros after it. Like, that is the most preposterous number that I'm like I said, I just don't understand if people could really understand what a 1 with 27 zeros looks like. But that was what Ken Golden said in that video, that your chances of grading that yourself was 1,000 to the ninth power. That number is preposterously large. Like, and then he says it after the fact. He's like, maybe I was off by a few decimal points. A few decimal points. That would be like you at home saying a million years. And then you went, wait a second. I meant to say 1 second. Sorry, I accidentally said a million years. Like, that's the equivalent of, like, messing up. It's the most ridiculous video that you can ever watch. And as it goes through, like, the way he talks about those cards, it just compounds. And that's why that video has always been one of the real secretive gem, like, every sentence of that is just a meme on a meme on a meme. But that's one of the reasons I wanted to, like, put that video out there and just kind of, not to say that those videos die, but I think they kind of sometimes get lost in the shuffle, and maybe sometimes you'll hear people in passing just, reference a video, like reference the Beanie Baby video. And what was the Beanie Baby video? If you watch that too, what I did was, it was a clickbaity video. So in order to make the ultimate clickbait, I literally just searched a bunch of former Pokemon clickbait images, put them all onto a thumbnail, and then I just didn't even title that video. I just titled it ... And I figured, hey, we'll let YouTube just see what we can do. Let's see if we could get views on this video. And it ended up getting a bunch of video, and it was just an old QVC video of people shilling Beanie Babies. And I kind of wanted to, like, just put those videos out there, like. And I think some people actually took out the caveat of it and what the reasons behind those videos were. I saw it in the comment section. Some people caught on. The simple fact of the matter is, you got to be very, very careful that when the person who is selling you that product is also the person telling you that that product is investable. That's one of the things that I try not to do. I try not to really sell you any product. It is actually pretty hard to, well, you could go on my eBay page. I have the eBay affiliate link in the description below. If you click on that link, I get a little kickback if you buy anything on eBay. But like, I have that. I have my eBay store, but it's like, my small eBay store. I don't keep anything above $100, and I don't like to do that. And it goes back to the morality video. And I don't know if you guys are like kind of catching on to. I make the morality video. The morality video gets a little bit of a kickback from a lot of people. A lot of people in the hobby was kind of talking about that whole topic of, the like whatnot, and people taking their checks and stuff, and is what it is. And I wanted to show, like, you got to be careful. Like, when there's money involved, people will say and do a lot of things that maybe you wouldn't really expect them to do. And that's why I wanted to show you, like, got to be careful when you have that Beanie Baby video. If you haven't watched that video, go back and watch that one too. It's a gem. There's a lot of gems recently that I posted. They're old. They're like VHS quality. Like, they're not 1080p. They might as well be like 220p. Is 220p a thing? It might as well be as low quality as it gets, but they're worth it to listen to. And it just goes back to, when money's involved, people will say and do, and their actions will change. Think about it. And I want to give you something to think about. I'm going to throw in the Maple Bear. And the Maple Bear is valued at $400. Glory! Glory! Don't forget about Glory. If you've watched those videos, you understand what I'm saying. Or the same thing about, the Ken Golden on the Shop at Home, talking about one of the best investments of Pokemon you will ever see in your lifetime. And there may never be a better investment than those Neo Premium File Collections. And the chances of you grading that card is 1,000th to the 9th power. Like, these are real things that were said. So, just be careful. Like, I hope some people at home were able to extract that, and it wasn't just me like totally memeing on my channel, and like, it was just to show you guys, like, and I want to take things that we are pretty far disconnected from. And do you ever see stuff like that today to the extreme? Maybe not to the Ken Golden, shop at home extreme, but we do see some people sometimes, like, when their biases get so like ingrained in what they're saying, and they can't even do things as simple as admit that they were ever wrong. I'm going to be the first one to admit to you. I'm going to tell you right now, I have been wrong with a lot of stuff in this hobby. Hopefully, I've been right more than I've been wrong, but I promise you, I have been wrong about a lot of things in this hobby. But there's some people out there you got to look out for these signs where they'll say that they were never wrong about anything, or that they're never willing to change and they're never willing to adapt. If you've watched this channel now for a while, you will know pretty much I say a lot of things over and over again, and one of the things that I say constantly is you gotta stay liquid in this hobby, and you gotta be able to change and adapt with whatever this hobby is doing, whatever the market is doing at different periods. And that means if you are looking at this from like a collector standpoint, you gotta, change and adapt. And maybe sometimes if you are a collector and prices get too crazy, you shift your collecting aspect to areas of the market where maybe prices haven't seen this like crazy, boom. So maybe things are a little bit undervalued in that area from an investable standpoint, but for a collector standpoint, you can still pick up those pieces of your collection because maybe the rest of the market haven't flowed there. And it's a lot of that is just, moving with this market. And right now, we're in a beautiful time. So listen, when I just told you I've been wrong about a lot of things, I've also luckily been right about a few things. And one of the things that I was very lucky is that I made a video not too many months ago saying that the most money was going to be made or lost in this hobby in the next couple months. And what I meant by that was that there was going to be a lot of good buying opportunities in that. And I also made a video talking about how now is the acquisition phase of Pokemon. And if you look at a lot of charts for the last 6 months of stuff, you will see a lot of things had huge dips within the last 6 months. You'll see a lot of things really started to dip. And then if you look at a lot of products right now and you start to look at the uptrends, a lot of stuff is going up right now. So when you take the two videos that I made when I said now is the acquisition period, meaning it's time to acquire stuff, and number two, the most money was going to be made or lost. What I said in that is that some people were going to sell, and that some people were going to buy. So if you couple the, buying, like because everything was going to drip or was going to drop, which it did, and then the acquisition, and now look at what a lot of people's returns are on some of the stuff they purchased in the last 6 months. And then look at a lot of the people that sold in the last 6 months, and look at like how rough of a time they're now having because they're probably looking at a lot of the prices. Oh, it seems like everything is kind of going up in the last 6 months. Now, there are definitely the outliers there. You still have a lot of product that is still kind of staying stagnant. And, this is the thing. A lot of people, like, are not willing to do that. They're not willing to just admit when some things are doing really well and some things in this hobby are maybe not doing as well. And you could even say as much as they're performing poorly. And that is just moving with this market. I'm going to give you an example. Right now, anybody who ever even talks a little bit of shit on Scarlet and Violet as maybe not being a great time to acquire all this stuff, they really get dunked on by a lot of people. I'm going to tell you right now, in the last couple months, if you could have bought a lot of stuff, which a lot of people thought was undervalued, and they've seen really good price increases in the last 6 months, or you could have bought a lot of like the Scarlet and Violet stuff, and your money, while you might have made a little bit of gains here and there, more or less, when you take into account shipping and fees that you're going to have to pay to sell a lot of this stuff, you really just stayed stagnant in the last 6 months, even with a little bit of uptrend. And then even then, you're seeing people flood some of this stuff on the market, or maybe not flood is a poor word, but maybe trickle some of this stuff on the market. So you're not really seeing like huge demand because once in a while people are still waiting for the guy that offloads Paradox Rift booster boxes between $80 and $85. And if you are patient and you don't just FOMO into all this stuff, like those deals are still coming up as recently as last week. So that stuff stayed stagnant. But now this is the thing. Even the Scarlet and Violet stuff will eventually go up over time. And then there will become entry points for product like this. And then when those entry points start to happen, then it will be time for people to start, getting into product like that. The problem is we came out of a very, very weird time in this hobby. When you think about it, we came out of Sword and Shield. And Sword and Shield was the first thing, well, one, a lot of the Sword and Shield stuff, especially like mid to late, so I would say really that middle timeline of Sword and Shield, the prices for some of this stuff at release was wild. And you saw a lot of people FOMO into a lot of this stuff. I mentioned it a lot. Vivid Voltage booster boxes, 280. Battle Styles, 160. Shine and Fates ETBs selling 120, 130 for an ETB. Chill and Rain for pre-orders we're doing like 160. We saw Chill and Rain before some of the massive reprints hit up to like 170, 180 before reprints really crushed it down. Like the thing about all that too is, the reprints eventually came, and the reprints was what quelled that market. I promise you. And you might not want to hear this, but we do live in the world where, Vivid Voltage got reprints, and it knock that booster back sub $200. There could have been a world where Vivid Voltage never got a reprint, and Vivid Voltage right now would be the most expensive like Sword and Shield booster box, or at least it would be up there because it was already knocking on the door of 300, and it took a huge reprint of those Vivid Voltage booster boxes to knock it sub 200 until eventually now it's floating right around that 150 mark. But even the 150 is actually a little bit of a gain from where it actually hit from those rock bottom prices after reprints and stuff. But trust me, there's a world where reprints for this product never come. So like that's the difference between Sword and Shield. Because Sword and Shield, at release, all these products were crazy high. Now, Scarlet and Violet is having the opposite effect, where at release, we're not seeing crazy high prices. You're not seeing, $160 pre-orders like you saw with Battle Styles. A lot of people shit on Battle Styles. Make no mistake about it. Battle Styles was a pre-order booster box, or right after release, was $160. And again, it was the reprints that crushed it. But that pre-order, that right at release, super high demand. So now, Scarlet and Violet, we didn't see that crazy at release. We didn't see Scarlet and Violet base or Paldea Evolved. We didn't see those booster boxes go up to 170, 160, 180, and then just, fingers crossed saying, okay, we got Scarlet and Violet base, or Scarlet and Violet base, and Obsidian Flames, and all these sets, they're all selling for 180. We gotta now wait for reprints. This is a different timeline. We don't have to wait for reprints anymore. Now, we're living in this weird timeline where now people are saying, oh no, I hope we don't get reprints. And I don't know. A lot of people won't do this. I'm going to tell you, I don't know what happens with these sets. Because just like I told you that, for a lot of the Sword and Shield stuff, we were just now expecting reprints to come. We expected it to come with Vivid Voltage, Battle Styles, Chill and Rain, Evolving Skies. Evolving Skies got like 3 or 4 different reprints, but just being such a strong set, it just had such a strong, price to it that even after the huge dump where it was the perfect storm where you had Battle Styles dropped, you had Chill and Rain dropped, you had Fusion Strike drop, and you had Evolving Skies reprint, when all those just all dumped onto the market at the same time, even with that, one of the largest dumps of reprints we have ever seen in modern Pokemon, and in fact, one of the largest dumps of product I have ever seen in my entire life. That was that most perfect of storms. Even with that, Evolving Skies booster boxes weren't even able to crack below $95. Meaning, that just shows you how strong Evolving Skies was until eventually, everyone ate it up at those low prices till eventually, now they're $500 plus a booster box. But when everything else crashed, to 80, Evolving Skies still stayed strong at that 95. And, it took these reprints to get this stuff down. And so everyone just said, okay, Evolving. So, like I said, Vivid Voltage, Battle Styles, Chill and Rain, Evolving Skies, Brilliant Stars, Astral Radiance, Lost Origin, Silver Tempest. Every single one of those products have now got a reprint or a, decent restock. And that was what was, in a way, required. Not just required, it was needed. Because it was the only thing to quench these, like the demand. And especially when you talk about specialty sets, and I talked about Shine and Fates too, I mentioned that earlier. Shine and Fates now seems like this stinker of a set. Nobody wants it. It's sitting on Pokemon Center MSRP. You could probably go into your local Walmart and probably pick it up off the shelf because nobody else is picking it up. It's probably sitting there. It's going to be available forever. But it took a ton of that product to really kill the price. Now we're running into this other timeline. And like I mentioned earlier, prices at release are not going crazy. So now everybody's kind of sitting back, and how everybody during Sword and Shield, like I mentioned just a little bit ago, we're all saying, okay, reprints are coming. Thank God we need reprints. We need these prices to get down. None of this is healthy for the market. Those are things people were saying. Now, with Scarlet and Violet, people are looking at the prices for some of these booster boxes, and they're going, oh no, what happens if Pokemon goes back and reprints Paradox Rift? What happens if Pokemon goes back one set before Paradox Rift and does Obsidian Flames? What happens if Paldea Evolve gets reprint? What happens if they go back and reprint Scarlet and Violet base? What happens? The market already can't eat up the current supply we have. And yeah, we're seeing, price increases, but nothing crazy. I mean, we're happy when some of these booster boxes are selling for 105, 110, which 105, 110 for maybe a Sword and Shield booster box isn't the worst case scenario, isn't end of the world. But then you look at what a lot of these people are paying from distribution for some of these Scarlet and Violet booster boxes. Some people are paying 93, some are paying 95. So to have a $95 booster box from distribution on the secondary market, selling for 105, 110, there's not great margins there after fees and shipping and credit card fees and everything, if any. So a lot of people are just, selling some of this stuff even at losses at something as high as 105 because we've now seen from distribution the prices for some of this stuff increase. And then you do have the people that have been able to work out good deals, but even working out good deals, some of these guys are lucky to get $1 off a booster box. So it's interesting, you know? And then now with the new Temporal Forces set, people are already asking now for this set in a way to be short printed. And there's been people who have been in contact with distribution. I don't have distribution, so everything I get is all secondhand, so you got to take it with a grain of salt. But it seems like a lot of people are now getting, their allocations for Temple Forces, and maybe they're not going to be as good. And then distribution saying Pokemon's not going to go back and reprint this stuff, which I'm going to be really honest with you. Be really careful with that sort of thought process. The fact, like, usually the information coming from distribution is like relatively reliable, but it's not something you like gamble on. Like, knowing what actually happens at distribution, like, this is a problem too. And I think this is one of the most dangerous problems of all this, is we're already hearing Temple Forces potentially being short printed, potentially only having like one run of Temple Forces, and Pokemon will never go back and reprint Temple Forces, which maybe that's the case. Maybe we get lucky. Pokemon usually does do that. They will randomly throw out a set, and we've seen it happen multiple times, and that set, for whatever reason, doesn't get a reprint. And it just doesn't. It's short printed, and Pokemon just does that on occasion. Ultra Prism's a great example of that. Ultra Prism, for whatever reason, was just short printed right at release. And then, prices for Ultra Prism booster boxes started going crazy high up. And then right before Ultra Prism was ready to come out of rotation, which, when you say, okay, when is things least likely to get reprinted? Well, when it's about to go out of rotation. That's what a lot of people normally go with, that thought process. And then, about 2 weeks prior to Ultra Prism going out of rotation, surprise, huge reprint of Ultra Prism. And then that reprint was enough to crush the price of Ultra Prism down. But then, 2020 came along, and 2020 said, oh, don't worry, hold my beer. Anything that has ever gone down in the history of Pokemon, any bad purchase that was ever made in the history of Pokemon, will be redeemed with 2020. And 2020 did do that. I told you. After 2020 was over, there were no bad buys in Pokemon pre-2020. So if you did any bad buy in 2019 and prior, you might have been okay. With the exception of maybe if you bought those Neo Premium graded cards from Ken Golden on Shop at Home. But, 2020 was it was forgiving. It was if you wanted to say what was 2020 more than anything else, a lot of people would use words like it was a boom, it was a crazy bubble, because some stuff really wasn't a bubble. Some stuff wasn't. People are going to be like, oh yeah, here we go, bubble talk again. Jungle Pikachus in PSA 10. Jungle Eevees in PSA 10s. Can we just agree that at least some things in this hobby was in a bubble when you look at $1,000 plus Jungle Pikachus and first edition Jungle Eevees? Like, some stuff was in bubble. Sorry guys. But people will talk about that stuff, but they don't usually use the word forgiven. But it was. 2020 was just forgiven. So now, what happens for some of these sets where what happens? I like the hypothetical. Because I'll tell you, there's two options that happen. One, this Scarlet and Violet stuff never gets reprinted, and then every single thing goes up beautifully over time. And when you start to see prices go up, like I'm going to tell you right now, I think, in my opinion, you should probably like acquire some of this stuff when you start to notice that trend happen. Now, the caveat to that and the danger of that is what happens if you get an Ultra Prism type release for a set like a Temporal Forces, where now everybody was assuming Temporal Forces is going to be short printed. There's not going to be a lot of it because of what we're hearing from distribution. And then the what if Temporal Forces now gets an Ultra Prism type release where a little bit, it doesn't have to be 2 weeks before it comes out of rotation, but let's just say later down the line, Temporal Forces gets a reprint, and not just a small reprint, but like a decent size reprint. What's the danger of this? The danger is learning from history, because those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And the same way as I talked about Ultra Prism being reprinted real late into going out of rotation. When the hobby as a whole listens to distributions and like a set like Roaring Skies. Well, what happened with Roaring Skies? Well, distribution said Roaring Skies was not going to get a reprint. So, because Roaring Skies wasn't going to get a reprint, had the playable Shaman, even though there were specialty boxes that had that Shaman. So, even though prices for that set went up pretty crazy, and a lot of people talk about the playability of the Shaman, the fact of the matter is that card was already reprinted. It was already a promo. That was not what was keeping the value of that box up anymore. What was keeping the value of the box up was distribution has said that Roaring Skies was no longer going to get reprinted. Prices for that was what seemed to be organically going up, and supply for Roaring Skies, especially in booster boxes, just started to dry up. And then, when Pokemon finally did announce that reprint of Roaring Skies and prices dropped, the thing that happened above all others, and what the danger is with saying stuff like Temporal Forces will be short printed, what happened was a lot of people lost faith in the market. Roaring Skies was probably the best example of people just losing faith. Ultra Prism, people didn't lose faith over Ultra Prism. It just came as a shock for a lot of people. Not a lot of people were really sitting on Ultra Prism to begin with because it was tough to get at release. It was short printed, like I said, so people didn't have huge positions. People weren't really speculating on Ultra Prism. It kind of just got lost in the shuffle. Roaring Skies, on the other hand, didn't get lost in the shuffle. People were speculating on it. And that's what was the birth of videos like the Rudy Pokemon Bathroom. The Rudy Pokemon Bathroom came out of people losing confidence in the Pokemon market. Rudy didn't acquire his positions in Pokemon and the famous Rudy Bathroom. He didn't acquire all that without faith in Pokemon. All that was acquired with faith and good intentions until eventually those big reprints hit and it killed consumer confidence. That is my fear with a set like Temple Forces, where everybody just says, okay. And then this is the problem too, is you start to get everybody repeats himself. Temple Forces is going to be short printed, going to be short printed, going to be short printed. And then you just believe it. And the fact of the matter is distributions don't have great track records of being the most trustful people ever. I just mentioned Roaring Skies. So just take all this stuff with a grain of salt. And going back to the point I was trying to make earlier is why do you got to be careful what distribution's saying? Because distribution is the person selling this product. The same way as I said earlier, you got to be careful taking investment advice from the people that are selling this product. The same way as you had to been careful from Ken Golden shilling Neo Premium Collection file cards is the same way as you got to be careful with distribution saying stuff is going to be short printed. Because they probably don't in reality know. The same way Ken Golden probably in reality knew nothing about those Neo Premium cards. It's the same way as distribution doesn't really know if stuff is truly going to be short printed or not. Or they definitely don't know if Pokemon is going to go back and reprint stuff. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if Temple Forces doesn't get a reprint and it is short printed, I'm going to tell you right now, demand will be super, super high for that. Things will go up really, really well in the short term. And then when it does come time for Pokemon to reprint stuff, they're going to look at all the sets and they're going to ask themselves one question. They're going to say, what needs to be reprinted? In Scarlet and Violet Base probably won't need to be reprinted. Paldea Evolved won't need it. Obsidian Flames won't need it. Paradox Rift won't need it. Well, what about Temple Forces? Well, Temple Forces needs it. Well, why does it need it? Well, we short printed it. Oh, does Temporal Forces have some good playable cards? It seems like it is right now. It seems like the players are pretty excited about the ancient Pokemon and stuff. So it's like, okay, looks like there might be some real playable cards in there. So when Pokemon has that conversation of what needs to be reprinted, there may only really be one set on the chopping block that needs to be reprinted. And it will be Temporal Forces. And I'm just very, very worried that people are just speculating too hard and Pokemon is not going to care. And then if that happens, people will get so overly involved we'll see another Roaring Skies situation play out. And again, what I mentioned earlier is those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat itself. So if Temple Forces gets a reprint, boom, consumer confidence in Pokemon is going to go to absolute shit. And then people are going to reference, you know, secondhand knowledge through emails or whatever, you know, they saw on a Discord group or they saw on a Reddit post where somebody sent a screenshot of like what their distribution sent them in an email. And it's just like, careful. Just be careful with all this. Now, does any of this stuff play out? I don't know. No one knows. Anybody pretending like they do know, they don't. It's just be careful with this stuff. We are still living in the days of, you know, a lot of shit's being printed right now. And so what am I doing right now? I guess that's the question a lot of people want to ask is I'm just trying to pick up stuff that's good deals right now. Things that I think are cheap, things that I think will maybe not make me a ton of money, but like they'll just be fun. Like those new Charizard EX tins. Yeah. Like the promos, I found somebody selling them for like $2 under TCG Player. Just picked up like 20 of them. And I was like, okay, I'll pick up 20 of these Charizard EX promos, all in decent condition. Like, a couple of them I'm obviously not going to be able to grade, but like for the few that I am going to be able to grade at a $2 under TCG Player, especially right now, with a lot of those things being readily available on the market, sure. Now, gonna make a lot of money off that? No. Gonna make a couple bucks off that? Maybe. And, you know, it's just, yeah, is what it is. Just be careful. Just, that's all. I'm not telling you to, don't stop doing anything. Like, if you take anything from this video or anything from any of my videos, the fact that people think I am so bearish on Pokemon is just, in a way, like, one of the more laughable things, but people would just go with whatever they really want. But all I'm saying is just be careful. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing inherently like dangerous about just saying be careful. And the fact of the matter is there's just so many things right now that are undervalued. Like there's a lot, and I've been saying it now for a pretty good minute. There are a lot of Sword and Shield booster boxes that you could just pick up cheap. They're starting to creep up. I mean, and I'm going to be honest with you, okay? There's going to be some people out there who are going to tell you, you know, people didn't believe in Sword and Shield, but, like, try to find those videos. I made a video titled, Every Single Sword and Shield Booster Box is Undervalued at $200. That was literally the title of my video. People still tell you that, like, people didn't believe in Sword and Shield. I'm telling you, I've been saying it on a lot of videos. Like, I think Sword and Shield is, like, now, well, when I started saying that, it was a few months ago, and it was definitely a better time than now, but it's still not even, your time's not up. If you haven't really picked up your positions of Sword and Shield booster boxes, and you do want them, like, you're probably running out of time. There may be no better time than right now. Now, some of the people out there did take advantage of, like, TikTok deals and stuff. And I saw some ridiculous prices. People were picking up booster boxes for, like, $70 with the TikTok coupon. I mean, you could pick up any booster box at $70. Like, there were so many good deals that had, like, just recently. And one of my more recent videos, I did say something, and I didn't really think that this was needed, but I do want to, like, just add something to what I said. So I mentioned Crown Zenith. Picking up, like, if you didn't have a sealed case of Crown Zenith, to pick up a sealed case of Crown Zenith. I didn't think I had to say this, but I didn't mean to, like, don't pick up a sealed case of Crown Zenith at MSRP per ETB. So, like, Crown Zenith ETBs are $49.99 MSRP. What I was not saying to, like, go pick up a case for $500. Like, I didn't think I had to say that, but maybe I did. Like, what I meant by Crown Zenith was that Crown Zenith really went cheap for a while. Now, I saw somebody in my comments wrote that they picked up their Crown Zenith boxes for $27.50. That's, whoever that person was, good for you. What I was talking about was, like, picking up Crown Zenith, like, waiting for the good deal. Like, you could pick them up if you look, like, $350 is probably, like, doesn't take too much work to find a Crown Zenith case for $350, so $35 per box. What I was thinking was, like, maybe you could get lucky, pick them up for $32.50, $34 even, now they're actually, believe it or not, since I made that video, they're already starting to like creep up pretty fast. I don't think me mentioning that on a video, but like that's kind of what I meant. And if I was ever going to say like pick up anything closer to MSRP, when I was talking about Crown Zenith because of the cheap prices you could have got it. Now, if I was saying to pick up something closer to MSRP, which I still think is a good buy, would be 151. 151 is a far superior product. It's just I felt that there were so many cheap price points to pick up Crown Zenith cases. But I didn't think I had to say that, not to pick up the cases for 500, to pick them up for, 340 or whatever. But, you know, if you did do that and then you want to pick up another case, 151. 151 is going to be one of those tricky things. 151 is primed to get a reprint, meaning it's prime because it's one of the strongest products right now on the market. There's a ton of demand for 151, and if Pokemon wanted to reprint anything where the market would be most accepting of receiving that, 151, not just on the English side, but Japanese side. Oh man, Japanese 151 booster box is crazy expensive right now, especially for that sealed case premium. Like 151 was one of those things that you never really found the Japanese booster boxes for like super cheap. Right now we're starting to see some Japanese booster boxes selling for really cheap right now. I saw some, I don't know what it's whatever the most recent set is, and oh man, I can't even think of the name of it. But I saw some booster boxes really cheap just on pretty popular websites. Somebody posted in one of the Discord groups. I clicked on it, I was like, man, that is a pretty good deal for Japanese booster boxes. But 151, we never really saw boxes get super cheap. And then especially with the Master Ball chase and the Master Ball being guaranteed one per booster box. Hell, I have a 151 Japanese booster box right there. Shout out to Rusty, TCA Game, and Rusty gave me that booster box. I haven't opened it yet. I think I'm just going to keep it as a sealed memento from the time I got to meet him in person. But, 151, I'm going to tell you right now, if 151 gets a reprint, especially in the Japanese, like whatever the right at release price is, so right after the reprint for Japanese 151, I'm going to tell everybody, I never talk about Japanese product. But if 151 gets a reprint from Japan, pick up a case. Pick up a sealed case. Get yourself that sealed case premium. And then, so obviously Japan, we don't know if there's going to be a reprint. It's becoming more and more unlikely that we're going to get a reprint. But now, for English, 151 right now, it's readily available because it's a ton of it has been printed. But if you ask me, like, what's the one set you would want to put away, like, Crown Zenith is nice. I definitely want to put away Crown Zenith. I'm looking at a case of ETBs right next to me as we speak. But if there's like, what do I feel more confident in? It's definitely 151. But the problem is, and I want to make this point more clear, is the reason I said Crown Zenith is because I think you could get it for way cheaper. And I felt that Crown Zenith was really starting to hit its floor. 151 isn't really at a floor right now. 151 is just you're going to pay whatever market is. There's no competition out there. There's nobody trying to offload their 151 like people were trying to for Crown Zenith. So I just wanted to make that point clear that it was just really, it boiled down to your best entry point. But if you were going to sit on stuff for the long term, hell yeah, go for 151. Why not? UPCs, Google back. I talked about UPCs as being one of my favorite, just, people were like, what's one of the best buys? And it was just like the promos in the UPCs. Can I go for 3? Nope. Shout out to Professor Oak, ×2. But the Mewtwo, beautiful card. The Mew EX, the Japanese one, selling for super expensive. I don't know why the English one's so cheap. I mean, it's just readily available. Mew, alt art, beautiful artwork, beautiful pink color scheme to it. Got a lot going for it. And then the Mew, the gold card, the metal card. Like, all that stuff is super undervalued. I mean, there was a time where the Mewtwo was selling for $2 per promo. And it's like, what is your upside risk at $2? What is your downside risk at $2? And that was like one of the cards that I talked about as just being like one of the best values. And, you know, now that's a problem. So UPCs, there's so much value baked in for those promos. So maybe UPCs, while if you believe in the promos, it might be the good way. But then, there's a lot of companies recently had so maybe 151 did get a little reprint because we did see some restocks, especially for like the booster bundles within the last month. Target had a big restock of the booster bundles. GameStop, no, not GameStop, Best Buy had a huge restock of the booster bundles. And that's the thing, like I went on, especially on Best Buy, when people were announcing that the bundles were up there, and I was like, oh, I'll just, for shits and giggles, I'll go look just to see if they're available. I was pretty late to like the Twitter notification that Pokemon TCG drops sent out, so I was like, okay, I'm like, whatever, an hour late to this, I'll just go check on it. And when I went and looked, and Best Buy still had booster bundles available, meaning, one, they might have got a ton of them, or, well, and it was limit 3 per customer, so that might have had a little bit to do with it. But the other fact of the matter was maybe there is just a little bit of like less demand, or maybe we're just running into the thing that people have speculated on forever, which is just like wallet fatigue. Pokemon has been pumping out a lot of products recently. We could be just running into the timeline of wallet fatigue, where people have just spent so much money in Pokemon in the last couple years. Because, I like to take a guess and say that most people in this hobby have re-entered within the last 4 years. So, in the last 4 years, if people are buying the way I think that they are buying, I mean, you gotta have wallet fatigue eventually, because Pokemon is a lot of things. But one thing Pokemon is not, it's not a sprint. Pokemon is not a 100-yard dash. Pokemon is the definition of a marathon. And to go one step further than marathon, like marathon is 27 miles or whatever. Like there's an end goal. There's a finish line to the marathon. Pokemon, there's no finish line. That finish line just keeps getting pushed back. There's no end to Pokemon. So the problem is when people do that 100-yard dash, or at least they think it's a 100-yard dash, and they do that full sprint, you can't do a 100-yard dash into perpetuity, into foreverness, into infinity. It's not possible. So maybe that's something we're running into. People just have a little bit of wallet fatigue. Maybe not, though. Maybe we just run into the point where people do have the same way as Pokemon as a hobby is into infinity, is into perpetuity, is never ending. Maybe how deep people's pockets are the same thing. Their pockets do go into infinity. I'm leaning towards that's not the case, but who knows? All right. So anyways, I did my normal PK rant, 47 minutes in. I see we got 100 people, 106 people congruent in the chat. Appreciate you guys for the old-fashioned PK rant. I do know there's some other lives going on right now, so I'm going to just funnel you guys right into there. So I think, is it tonight? I think there's a PokeFlips live tonight. Or is that tomorrow night? Well, let's see, live. When are they going live? Sorry guys. They're not live till tomorrow. So I was about to funnel you into a live that doesn't even exist. So we're going to go to the top of the chat. We're going to read some questions because we just magically got an extra couple minutes because now I don't have to funnel people into a live that doesn't start till tomorrow. Hackzack, first comment. Good to see you, buddy. Jester said PokeVault hit 100,000 subscribers earlier. Shout out to Sean's man for hitting 100,000. I am very happy for Sean. That's good for him, man. 100,000 subscribers. That's wild. So he's about to hit 100,000. CTR, he's pretty close to hitting 100,000. Pretty wild. It just shows you how large this hobby really is, and these guys are all going to keep growing too. I remember when, shout out to Danny Phantom. Danny Phantom hit 100,000 subscribers. It didn't seem like it was that long ago. And then, God, I feel like Danny's already up at the 130 range. And Danny Phantom, he's going hard on that YouTube grind right now. He's doing a video a day. I think the last time I watched, he was this is the 48th day or whatever of consecutive YouTube videos, or probably he's even higher than that. So shout out to you, Danny, buddy, for putting in that grind. And he keeps doing it. He keeps putting out entertaining videos. I don't know how he keeps doing it. I couldn't put out the videos like he does. At least, definitely couldn't put out the videos with like the sort of analytical mindset and looking at the numbers the way that Danny does it. It takes a lot of time, so big shout out to Danny Phantom. And it is wild too, like how fast you can grow. So I remember when Deep Pocket Monster and Twice Baked Jake, I don't know if you guys remember, do you remember when they were like having a competition between the two of them of which one of them was going to hit 100,000 subscribers first? And I mean, Deep Pocket Monster hit 100,000 subscribers, but then, I mean, he's going to get close to 1,000,000 subscribers pretty quick. Like, how fast he, from 100,000 to he kept going. So it just shows you that, like, this hobby is still massive. You know, you don't, I know right now, a lot of people are looking, you look at your unlisted Leafs, you look at your Poke Revs, you look at your Leonhardt, it's like 1,000,000 subscribers. Rev's about to hit 3,000,000 subscribers. You know, Unlisted Leaf for a while was 2,000,000 plus. He was the biggest YouTube. So people are always like, oh, well, there was always bigger YouTube channels. No, not really. Like, to be the size that even a channel like mine is, which is just a little over 7,000 subscribers, like, in the history of this hobby, like, that is a daunting amount of subscribers. Like, you're, with the exception of your biggest channels, you know, your Real Breaking Nates and stuff like this, like, there weren't a lot of YouTube channels that were getting, you know, these type of views and stuff. So, and definitely not for this type of content. The only person out there who is making, even in the relative ballpark, you know, 6 years ago, making content like this was SM Pratt. He was the only one even close. And then, you know, the content Gem Mint was making was a lot different. You know, he was really just doing more showcasing his collection. And sure, he was talking a lot during it and stuff. And then, obviously, Rusty TCA Gaming was probably the next person. You know, Rusty never really focused. He talked a lot about, like, the investing of Pokemon in a way. But, like, never direct, like, in your face the way SM Pratt did. Like, that's really what SM Pratt did. Rusty was more just a hybrid of everything, you know. Showcasing cards, showcasing collection buys, showcasing history of cards, more or less just showcasing you like what he's discovered and how recently he discovered it. So it's just wild to see what YouTube was like 6 years ago to what YouTube in Pokemon, I should say, is like today. It's just so wild. But yeah, big shout out to PokeVault for hitting 100,000 subscribers, man. Couldn't happen to a better guy. So Boondock Game said, got a PSA order back earlier. Too many PSA 9s. PSA 9, especially for modern cards, might as well be the crux of the Pokemon hobby, man. Nobody wants PSA 9s right now. So Charles said, the Cabal is present. We are no longer the Cabal. We are the Syndicate. So if members of the Syndicate are present, shout out to all the members of the Syndicate. Hexac said, love those classic Time magazine covers. Too bad the articles are fanboyish with shitty advice. Never even heard of TCG Fish. Would have bought and paid for an ad, yeah. Let's see. Cheval says, preemptively saying #1 mod in the game, Drew. Drew, appreciate you, bud. I see him out there. #1 mod in the game. So Kevin Clare said, how much are those cards worth today for the Neo Premium files? So I have one. I mean, I could. All right. I hate to do this. I probably. Hold on. I think I have one close by. Oh, no. This isn't a Neo Premium file. Hold on. Alright. I definitely have one close. Oh, crap. Alright. I have one close. I'll get it for the next video. But I do have... Alright. Hold on. Yeah, sorry, I don't have it. I did pull, because the problem is I keep them in, like, just like random bubble mailers. So I pulled out a bunch of bubble mailers. I did find some of these though. Do you know what these are? Toys R Us. So the same way as Pokemon had, like the trick or trade packs. So it's not really a new thing. So this is from 1991. These are Marvel. So these are the Marvel equivalent to trick or trade packs. So I pulled those out by accident. Do you guys want to see what I kept pulling out by accident? Got another Bart Simpson comic. I got the same one graded back there. So I got this. This was uncut sheet of what are this? This was Fox. So this is an uncut sheet. It's got, you got the Tick. You got Wolverine, Spider-Man, the Tick. What is that? Eek the Cat. He was from like Garfield and Friends. Spider-Man. You got the Bobby World's rookie card on it. And this is an uncut sheet. So I pulled that out by accident. Hold on. I will find that. I gotta think where these. No, I don't know. I got a lot of like bubble mailers, A&A promos, but that's not it. Where the hell is it? I'll find it. Sorry, guys. I probably lost all the people watching this. I'm sorry. This is why you can't go off screen. Where the hell is it? I don't know. I have one that's open. But either way. Alright. Gonna keep going on the chat. Sorry, guys. That was a little, So, Grease Collects talking about, old Ken Golden says, he was peak salesman Rant. Odds didn't matter at that point, yeah. Talking about a 1 with 27 zeros after the fact, yeah. But the question was, how expensive are they? So you could probably pick up a sealed Neo Premium binder for like, say, $70 to $75, probably on the higher end, but you could probably pick up a sealed one for that. So for $75, all those cards, I mean, we are talking quintessential Japanese media factory, beautiful print quality. Your Gem Mint 10 rate out of those is pretty high. I mean, that's all those guys did. They just sent a bunch of them, got a shitload of 10s. If you sent out all 9 promos blind, you're probably going to have about 7 of those 9 come back PSA 10. So in reality, you have to buy 2 of them, be picky and choosy, and then send out of, buy 2 of them. So you'd be all into it for like $150. Because you're going to buy 2 sets. You look at them. $15 to grade each of those. You could probably make a PSA 10 set for $400. You could probably buy an already graded PSA 10 set. Actually, I know you can because I looked it up after that video happened. I saw the cheapest buy it now was like $5.99 for a PSA 10 set of that. So you got to figure in 1999... they sold that for 3 easy payments of $333, so call it $1,000. Fast forward to the crazy hype that happened in 2020. Fast forward to 2024. So you're literally fast forwarding 25 years, and you've still lost $300. Think about it. Think about the numbers that were just said. In 1999, you spent $1,000. Fast forward after all the craziness, all the prices of everything that has gone up, and you've still lost $300 by buying that. Yeah. Now, I kind of want like the premium of the older labels. I didn't. This is something I didn't even think about till just now, but I do want to kind of go back and see if I could find some of those older labels where they didn't even know like the Typhlosion or the Feraligatr or the Meganium, and it was just like the artist names or just not. It wasn't even the Japanese names. It was just the artist names that they put, and then instead of Neogenesis because it was double white star. I mean, those labels alone deserve to be in a freaking museum. Forget about it. So Hack Zach said, how many of those PSA sets could they have had? So they had 25 of them because they just graded like the entire population. But then, at one time, oh God, just what are we going to do? We got to go down and break through like why that's the most ridiculous video ever. Let's see. Let's see. So, Punch Drunk Kid said, sure, don't forget about the PSA 10 Moonbreon. There's no proof or trust. I don't know what that. Uh, Punch Drunk said, are sealed. I don't know what the question is. Moonbreon is actually holding pretty strong. So, I mean, Moonbreon's had a pretty big price decrease from its all time high, but not bad. I mean, only what? So if you bought Moonbreon at its all time high, I think the all-time high sales I saw for Moonbound was right around 1,500. I remember Dan put out a video. Dan, shout out to Dan Catch 'em All Collectibles. He had a PSA 9, uh, like the Neo Discovery Moonbound, so the original Moonbound in first edition, PSA 9. At the time, it was selling for 1,300. I remember the Moonbound. He showed a sale on that video. Was also selling for 1,300. I remember sales as high as 1,500. So, right now Moonbrowns are selling for like $850. So you lost like 50% of your money and buying an ultra modern PSA 10 card, which obviously like that's super dangerous. But when you look at, okay, what are you going to do when you first to market for PSA 10s to only lose like 50% on a modern card? Moonbron's one of those cards that are holding up really, really strong in a PSA 10. And the problem is just a lot of that card hitting the market constantly. So to go from 1,500 to 850, it could be worse. It could be worse. Like, it's actually doing pretty good. Now, what's it going to take for the Moonbrown to get back to its all-time highs, to get back to that 1,500? So that's now, to double from where it is today. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough in the near term, but, fast forward 5 years from now, can we see the Moonbrown play out a little bit closer to maybe like the Latios from Tag Team? Now, the problem with Latios, that card was kind of, I guess you could call it undervalued at the time because of what it was selling for right at release versus what the Moonbrown was selling for. Moonbrown, even at release, was still a $250 card. Ironically, wasn't the most expensive card in Evolving Skies. The Rayquaza at release was the most expensive card. So it's a good conversation to have, though. I don't know if that was the question you were asking, though. Freddie Z says, I hate when people say, oh, the set is short printed. I have heard it for Paldea, Evolve, 151, etc. I just feel like people are saying, literally trying to pump the market, and no one is calling them out. It's dangerous. The problem is it's hard to call out people that are saying stuff is short printed because a lot of the times, like, it could be coming from distribution, and a lot of the people that they're telling, they don't have distribution. Same way as I told you, I don't have distribution. And I take all this stuff for a super, super grain of salt. Be very careful when the people who are selling you the product are also the ones giving the investment advice for those products. Let's see. So Right Dog Screws Up Political Theory says, I almost forgot to thumbs up this lovely video. Oh, I appreciate that. That goes for everybody. I'm looking. We only got 39 likes. We got 109 people watching. What are you guys doing? Do me a favor. Smash that like button. So, Class at 12 says, PK, what do you think happens to the buyer pool for eBay Vault once the premium kicks in? Do you think sellers will have an option to absorb the fees? Ooh, that's a good question. Now, they will... So this is the problem. All right, so with eBay Vault. So it's a good question, though. So Class Act is saying, so what happens? Because right now, if you're selling on eBay Vault, if anybody goes to buy your item, they're not going to pay a fee to acquire it from the vault. In the future, they will have to pay a fee. Now, I think what's going to happen is because to sell through the eBay Vault, right now, if you're not selling through the eBay Vault and you have cards listed for greater than $250, you're probably making a mistake because you're going to be paying whatever 13% to sell through eBay. If you sent that same exact card through to the vault, right now you're currently paying 0% fees to sell on eBay through the vault. So, that's wild. I mean, come on, 0% seller fees. That's ridiculous. But let's just say eBay Vault goes up to 3%, and then it goes up to 5%, and then it goes up to 7%. Well, if you're normally paying 13% anyway. Shout out to Professor Oak. If you're paying 13% to sell a card normally, but let's say eBay Vault goes up to 5% or 7%, you're still, even at 5%, you're like 8% less than what you would sell that, 8 percentage less. So, if the buyer's fee is 3%, you can still sell that card so much lower on the market compared to everybody else, because in the vault, you're already paying such less fees that you could just add that into the cost. So, knowing that the buyer's going to have to pay 3%, you just lowered the value of your card by 3%, knowing that if you weren't selling it in the vault, you're going to have to pay that premium. So you could kind of like maybe do that sort of thing. Hopefully that made sense. It was a little bit of a long-winded rant. Uh, let's see. Let's see. Pokey Steve's, good to see you there. Chris Texas, good to see you. Uh, let's see. So Hackzax, Freddie Z said, "Oh my God, PK has the same thought process I literally just had." uh, I don't know what he's referring to. Hackzax said, "Temple Forces is going to be interesting for sure. Want those alts." Yeah, there's like Temple Forces looks good. The ETBs look really cool too. I really like the T-Tar one. I forget what I listen. I can't remember names to fucking save my life, and especially with these like Temple Forces Pokemon, and they just like they elude me. But we're just gonna call it the T-Tar ETB. And I do love the artwork. I do love. I just hate two ETBs, especially with Pokemon Center. Like buying a case of each one of them, it's like, all right, buy one case, it's like whatever, 280 after taxes and everything. But buying one of them is 280, but buying like two cases, it's like, oh. And then I know I'm not going to sell any of these right away. It's not like I don't pick up my Pokemon Center ETBs for that quick flip. I know a lot of people do. Shout out to a lot of people that are doing that quick flip, but I'm not. Uh, Mason Berry said, "People need the real answers here. Why is Temple Forces short printed?" We don't know. I don't know. Is it really? Wait, there's going to be so much consumer confidence lost if that thing gets a reprint. It's going to be a Roaring Skies 2.0. Mason Berry. We need a Mason Berry video. I just gave you the title of the best clickbait video you can make, Mason. Title it, "Is Temple Forces Roaring Skies 2.0?" And just go for it, Mason. Do your thing. I just gave you that's a great title. "Is Temple Forces Roaring Skies 2.0, Mason?" And then just go through the dangers of stuff that is short printed getting a reprint. Nicholas said, "PK rant on a Monday. I'm in for it." Yes. MetaZoo Games YouTube said they suck. Yes, you do suck. I'm glad the first step is admitting it. So, when I go on my rant, like I titled this video correctly. It's Old Fashioned PK Rant. I don't know where it's going to go. We're just going to do it. Hacksack said, "Made some humble moves over winter. Got sleeve booster cases for Silver Tempest and Lost Origins for 400 shipped each. And then a Paradox Rift booster box case for 500. Ooh, I like that. The Paradox Rift for 500 a case. That's nice, man. What is that per box? I feel like that math should be a lot easier. 500, yeah. $83. Yeah, not bad. Shipped. Solid. Yeah, I mean, it's wild because you got to think, like, for $500 shipped, how much money people are losing just selling that case. But I guess some people just maybe want to keep up their allocations. I don't know. Unless you're talking through TikTok, then I could see it. Mobile Prodigy said TikTok Shop had 151 UPCs for $80 plus tax, free shipping as late as 2 weeks ago. Yeah. I mean, just recently. I mean, PokemonCenter.com, they re-released the UPCs with the Squirtle promos. I think the Squirtle promos are already back to like $70, $80 a piece. Like, it was quick. Like, the Squirtle promos dropped, and now they're kind of right back. And so you could pick it up right off of PokemonCenter.com for whatever, $129.99, and you get that $70 promo with it. And it's just like, okay, when you got something that's $130 and then you get a $70 promo, it's like, okay, well, I just bought a UPC off PokemonCenter.com for $60 when you factor in the price of that promo. It's like, there's good prices, and even that, like, people kind of passed on. I don't know. I could be wrong though. Maybe the Squirtle promos are not $70, but I think that they started creeping back up in price. But I could be wrong. This is probably one of those points where I'm wrong. I will, if I am wrong, I'm sorry. So don't crucify me in the comments. C Flip said my tinfoil hat is that Japanese 151 has had a full reprint, but all the sellers are fully capitalized, and since the price is holding with crazy demand. That's way too much faith in the Japanese seller market. I don't think that they have that ability. MetaZoo. I did get some MetaZoo. I do have my 2 UFO booster boxes that came in because they were $17. So I bought 2 of them for $34. I'm going to tell you something, not a secret. I love dead TCGs. My sweet spot is $20 booster boxes. Doesn't matter. I will buy dead TCGs all day. $20 booster boxes. Ideally, I like to do like $20 all in. That's hard to find. A lot of people think like booster boxes get super cheap and you can pick them up for like $10. No. To ship a booster box, it's $10. So unless you're picking up these dead TCGs in person, like, to be honest with you, the cheapest dead TCG you're going to find is usually around that. Well, all right, caveat. I definitely have some really cheap shit, but you're always going to pay that $10 shipping. It's just, there's no way around it. And then, when stuff starts to get like below $20, below $10, people kind of just don't even have a reason to sell it at that point. So it is tough to find. Now, I do have a couple of those $19.99 all-in buy it now specials, but those are hard to come by. And when you do find them, they're freaking Anastasia cards. Well, big shout out again to Professor X. Wow, Professor Oak. That sneeze really got me. Scrambled my brain just now. It said Professor X instead of Professor Oak. Let's see. This got the fake MetaZoo games. It's got to be either Basic Trainer or I don't know who's trolling the MetaZoo account. Mick Nick said, need the Maple Bear for free with his complete Gem Mint Neo file set. Yes. I mean, gotta think, the Maple Bear, that's $400, but it's included for free. And if you guys do not know what I'm talking about, go on my channel, look at my, not the live tab, go to the video tab, watch the 2 most recent videos. It's going to put a lot of this, because I'm going to tell you right now, if you want to be in on, call it the inside jokes of the channel, you're going to want to get in on the Maple Bear is free, because that's probably going to be a inside joke running on this channel for the near term. Mick Nick said, Vampires and Vixens Uncut Sheet Collecting Grail. Oh, we got the... Hold on, let's see. I gotta censor this one for YouTube, but we have some of the Vampires and Vixen. But you gotta censor, I don't want to get this channel demonetized, but if you know, you know. Go on your... Everybody go on to eBay right now and pick yourself up some Vampires and Vixens. If you like 90s hand-drawn, just TCG glory. That's a glorious product. We can do a pack opening right now, then I definitely get demonetized. Let's see. Oh, C-Flip says he has some of the double white star PSA labels. Oh, yeah, I need one of those. John Powline said, 10 years from now, it will be $1,500 a slab again. Patience is the key. Yes, patience is the key. Fresh Tat says, Ken Golden's been racing to the bottom since Gen 2. Yeah. It is funny to listen to him, though. Let's see. Friend of the Night said, do you find Flareon first edition jungle card a decent investment? Sure. Like, that's a broad question. Sure. Yeah. Like, it's all about price points. What's the condition of the card? Is it heavy play, light play, mild, is it a binder card? Is it a PSA 10 Gem Mint? Like, Do I like Flareon First Edition Jungle? Like, yeah. I mean, prices for that card's already started to retrace, but it's going to all be about, like, entry points into that card. What is the dollar amount you're paying for it? It's a pretty open-ended question. McNick said the Squirtle card is resilient. It's around $80 right now. And yeah, it's like not, and we're not talking like a year ago that those things came back on Pokemon Center. We're talking like within the last 2 months you could pick those up again. So you got a couple more. I mean, this is after the Squirtle promo. So we had the original Squirtle release, the original promo release, and then, you know, they were up for a little while. It was just for the pre-orders, and then it never came back, and then it did come back. And then it came back again. So technically the Squirtle promo came up 3 times that you could pick them up. And yeah, and the fact that it's still holding for $80 is pretty wild. C-Flip said, new drama video. PK pumps Vampires and Vixen. I'm pumping it right now. Everybody, listen. We got 105 people watching right now. If you buy Vampires and Vixen cards, they're probably going to be shipped from you out of Connecticut. Listen, I know some people that live in Connecticut. Maybe Vampires and Vixens are $27 a booster box on eBay right now. There'll be somebody in Connecticut who will make a lot of money if you buy Vampire and Vixen. Got to support Connecticut residents. Go ahead. Get yourself some Vampires and Vixens. Alright, that's enough of a live. I made it to the end of the chat. Listen, guys, appreciate every single one of you. Listen, I lived true to the title of this video, Old Fashioned PK Rant. To shout out to old Randy Marsh out there. Everybody loves a good old fashioned. So, made it for 1 hour, 16 minutes, and 30 seconds. Appreciate every single one of you guys. #1 mod in the game, Drew. Appreciate you, bud. Appreciate you dropping all the emojis, all the Raichu emojis. But for everybody else out there, I will be live definitely on Thursday for the weekly chat. And then, if you guys don't know, if you're still stuck around, I have the monthly podcast with myself, Mr. Rattle Pokemon himself, and that is going to be this Friday. So, this Friday is February 23rd at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to tune in for the monthly podcast, you heard it here first. But, as always, guys, appreciate every single one of you, and I'll catch you on the next video.